Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for September 21st, 2020. Please note, I am not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storms I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult the National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at Tropical Storm Beta, which is near the Texas coast, and Hurricane Teddy, which is currently passing by Bermuda en route to the Canadian Maritimes. So let's first take a look at Tropical Storm Beta. So there really isn't a whole lot to it. The center seems to be very close to the Texas coast, and again, there isn't a whole lot of convection. There's a bit of weak convection, it looks like here, and some trying to get going near the center, but there really isn't much because there is a lot of dry air uh, near the storm that's trying to wrap in. But there is a lot of low cloud. You can see that kind of yellowish color, and that is the low cloud. So it's not deep convection, but you're gonna get some rain showers from this. And this does exist to the east as well over Louisiana, and there's some more uh, convection in that region, so that there is a large area of uh, some rain, though it doesn't seem that's very heavy rain. However, the duration might be a cause for concern. Looking at one of the model analyses, there is a lot of dry air in the region. There's some to the west of Teddy with a mid-level trough in the region, but there is also some that is near Beta, and as a result, this is coming and basically wrapped into the storm, and so that means it's had trouble maintaining much of any convection as a result of that dry air, and that's what we're getting. Just not a very strong storm, so luckily it didn't really ramp up before landfall like we've seen a lot this year. Instead, it struggled with some continental dry air, and that really kept the lid on its intensity. Uh, as for the track forecast, although it'll be a weak storm, it's probably going to stay around for a little while. It's been traveling generally west-northwest into the coast here. However, the ridge that's been steering is forecast to weaken as a trough comes from down from the plains, and as a result, you're going to have the ridging to the east and to the southeast of Beta start to amplify ahead of that troughing, and as a result, you're going to get some southwesterly flow in the region. However, the transition time means that the flow will temporarily be a bit slower, and as a result, you're going to have Beta moving slowly near the Texas coast as it eventually starts to move more rapidly northeast. Looking at the official National Hurricane Center forecast for it, you can see this pretty well. It pretty much stops moving uh, on Tuesday generally, but then starts moving near the coast on generally at the end of Tuesday into Wednesday. So as it slowly moves around, you're going to get periodic higher wind in as a part of this system, and also some heavy rain. Just because it is a slow-moving storm, even though it's quite weak and suffering from dry air intrusion, it's going to have the ability to have rainfall, and so you're going to get a lot of rain, especially as it stalls and eventually moves northeast. So a lot of the Texas coast and Louisiana coast is going to see possible flooding from the rainfall, especially even though it will be moving faster as it passes Louisiana. There's a bit more substantial convection to the south of it, and there might be some rain from there. If you look at some rainfall forecasts here from the uh, Weather Prediction Center and National Weather Service, you can see in the next few days that there will be a few inches of rain, possibly higher, depending if there are thunderstorms. So, as with pretty much any slow-moving tropical disturbance or tropical cyclone like this, be aware of flooding, and if you are in a flood-prone region, just be prepared for possible flooding, as that is definitely a possibility. Now, taking a look at Hurricane Teddy, as it's passed over the cold wake of Hurricane Paulette from a little while ago, and is moving further into the or mid latitudes, Hurricane Teddy definitely is looking less tropical than it has. There's some convection over the center, so it is still a tropical cyclone, but you can see hints that it's starting to become a little less tropical. And one of those things are that it's getting less organized, definitely. It is still a deep system, but you aren't seeing that sort of well-defined tropical, strong tropical cyclone sort of look as it is again getting less tropical. You can even see kind of the beginnings of what seems to be a baroclinic leaf to the northwest. It's very primitive, so it is going to take some time, but it does seem that Teddy is trying to begin its extratropical transition as it starts to head further north and into even cooler waters where you tend to have pretty quick extratropical transition. At the same time, you can also see the strong jet flow, and that's going to actually ventilate Teddy and actually help it become a stronger storm, even though it is going to be extra tropical as it next affects land. You can see also some of the signs of that troughing that's helping it move to the north right now, and there's a dry air that's coming into here, but it's not really penetrating in the mid or in the center region. As it becomes extratropical, though, you're probably going to see something like that occur. Looking at some recon observations for Teddy, it is again a pretty deep cyclone at the moment. Dropzone found 959 millibar minimum pressure at the splashdown, but it had a 15 knot wind, so it's around 957 to 958 millibars as a minimum pressure. So it is a relatively deep cyclone, but if you look at how the winds look in here, it's definitely not your average hurricane look, and it's another sign that's becoming a lot broader and less tropical. You can see, even though it is deep, the winds don't really get that strong. The maximum winds this mission has found is still in Category 1 strength. Uh, so that means it isn't, or it's getting a lot broader, so you're having weaker winds for lower pressure. So this is exactly what we're seeing. And with that broad structure, you're not seeing the highest winds close to the center. You have a very broad radius of maximum winds, which is way out here. And even right now, as they go for the next pass, the winds are pretty low for being close to the center. So this definitely confirms that the structure is becoming a lot broader, and we'll likely see some extratropical transition begin relatively soon. Although we tend to see systems like this weaken as they head for their extratropical transition, it does look like Teddy will actually intensify as in the next few days, even as it starts losing more tropical characteristics, and that's because it has a pretty excellent jet configuration here. You can see the divergent flow aloft in a few ways. You have both the direction going generally diverging, but you can also see this entrance region of the jet as the winds get stronger. So that's going to basically vent out the outflow, and that's going to allow Teddy to intensify from extratropical processes, and so it will likely become a deeper storm, but maybe not stronger in winds as it becomes ever broader as it heads into the Canadian Maritimes. As for track, there is actually an interesting looking track for Teddy because it is interacting with the mid-level troughing that's currently embedded in, and that troughing is a little bit on the negative side. So as a result, you're going to, as Teddy starts getting more to the northeastern side of that troughing, it's going to rotate a bit more around it, and as a result, it's expected to bend a little bit to the west, not as much as was possible before. So it's likely that uh, the east coast of the United States will be spared from the direct impacts. However, this bend more westward will threaten some of the Canadian Maritimes, especially Nova Scotia, which is expected to impact first. However, as it gets a bit more to the northern side of that trough, and another trough comes from Canada, up here, it's going to start moving a bit more north and then your usual more northeast as it heads more north. Looking at the official National Hurricane Center forecast for Teddy, you can see on the current wind extent that it is pretty broad and has a large bubble of tropical storm force winds, and that's why you still have that tropical storm warning for Bermuda, because winds are going to be strong as a result of the broad nature, even as it passes relatively far by. You can also see that bend a bit more to the west as a result of that trough interaction, but eventually moving more towards the northeast. And at the same time, you can see that it's expected to maintain hurricane strength, but probably weaken in wind as it moves northeast, as it becomes larger. And as a result of those high winds, there are tropical storm watches and warnings up for Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and the southwestern coast of island Newfoundland. So definitely high winds, along with very dangerous surf as it comes by, and generally swells extending pretty far from the storm. So we're going to see that even where Teddy isn't even going to be close to. So there are going to be dangerous swells potentially extending very far out from the storm, but the direct wind impact and heavy rain and highest swells will be in the Canadian Maritime region, including mostly Nova Scotia, but also within Prince Edward Island and parts of Newfoundland. So definitely be prepared for that as it comes in generally midweek or towards the later week if you're more in Labrador and Newfoundland. Otherwise, there isn't a whole lot really threatening land in the Atlantic right now. There's the remnants of Paulette that are trying to regenerate into a subtropical or tropical storm. I'll have to see if it does. Seems likely at this point. However, it's not an immediate threat to land at this point. Uh, anyway, if you have any questions or comments about my video, please let me know. Thanks for watching.